David Muir, ABC's World News Tonight, America's most watched newscast. Now streaming same day with all the breaking news of the day on Disney+. Most watched, most trusted. Now on Disney+ every night.
Tonight, millions are bracing for snow and bitter cold temperatures, and we're getting our first look at new evidence in the case against Luigi Mangione. We begin with the wintry weather, snow, followed by dangerous cold sweeping across the Great Lakes region, impacting drivers and even the NFL, and relentless rain in the Pacific Northwest. Multiple inches of rain expected every day this week. Our weather team times it all out. Next, the Trump administration faces increased calls to release video of the second attack on an alleged drug boat that killed 2 survivors. The Secretary of Defense is now hesitating and defending the strikes. At least one Democrat who's seen the footage says the attack may have violated international law, while some Republicans say it was just. Also tonight, newly released evidence from the Luigi Mangione case, including a to-do list, a bus ticket under an apparently false name, and video that authorities say allegedly shows him walking toward insurance CEO Brian Thompson after Thompson was fatally wounded. Chaos in the cockpit, the audio revealing the frantic moments after an off-duty pilot tried to cut the engines of a passenger plane in mid-flight.
We've got a jump seater, just try to shut our engines off.
It's one of the largest settlements for a killing by police in U.S. history. One city's agreement to pay $30 million to the family of a teenager shot and killed by an officer while running away from someone else. Shocking footage of a car crossing into the path of an oncoming train, and this story's remarkable ending. The dramatic eruption at this country's most active volcano, fountains of lava seen shooting 100 feet into the air. Championship weekend, who made the college football playoff, which big-name team was left out and decided to end its season. Plus, history is made in racing and by one of the greatest to ever play the game of soccer. And America strong tonight. The holiday spirit returns less than a year after a devastating fire.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Sunday. I'm Lindsay Davis. We begin tonight with wintry weather as millions of Americans are in store for another round of brutal cold. The snow is creating headaches for flyers with nearly 3,000 flights delayed between Chicago's O'Hare and Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson airports. The snow blanketed the field as the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals faced off for a big game here in New York. Heavy snow in north central Iowa made weekend driving conditions treacherous, and drone footage captured the ice coating the lakes and ponds of Essex County, Massachusetts. Let's get right to meteorologist Dani Beckstrom from our New York station WABC. And Dani, the wintry weather is not all you're tracking.
It's not it, Lindsay. We're also tracking a significant rain event setting up for the Pacific Northwest. But let's start with that Arctic air about to move into the Northeast. That dangerous cold impacting the upper Midwest tonight. Sub-zero wind chills from the Dakotas to Wisconsin, and that air mass moving east overnight. The cold isn't as brutal for the Northeast. Monday morning wind chills, though, still in the single digits and teens from Chicago to New York City. Mornings in D.C. will feel like the 20s for several days, and Atlanta will have morning wind chills in the 30s by the middle of the week. Now to the Northwest, an atmospheric river set to bring flooding downpours each day this week. Flood watches hold through Friday from Eugene to Seattle and the mountains in northern Idaho as well. A fire hose of moisture dropping rounds of heavy rain and snow. By Friday, we could see up to a foot of rain in the Cascades. The elevation plus that saturation after that many days means flooding is a real threat through Friday. Lindsay?
All right, Dani, thanks so much. The suspect in the murder of the United Healthcare CEO is expected back in court tomorrow. Over the weekend, prosecutors released new photos, including a bus ticket and a to-do list. Some of the evidence allegedly recovered from Luigi Mangione when he was arrested in Altoona, Pennsylvania. The hearing on Friday was postponed after Mangione became ill. Here's ABC's Reena Roy.
Tonight, Luigi Mangione preparing to head back to a New York City courtroom for a high-stakes hearing that will determine what evidence the jury can see in his state murder trial as they weigh whether to find him guilty or innocent in the shooting death of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. In court, prosecutors showing this photo of an alleged to-do list found in Mangione's pocket during his arrest on December 9th last year. Under that same date, the note says Intel check-in and survival kit. Police say they found this pocket knife and bus ticket in the name of Sam Dawson, an alias allegedly used by Mangione while police say he was on the run. Prosecutors also releasing this video that they say shows Mangione walking right by Thompson in Midtown Manhattan after the attack, appearing to glance at him before turning and running off. A man exits this hotel, seems to see Thompson, and points in the suspect's direction. His arrest coming 5 days later when police were led to this McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, by a 911 call from a manager.
I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York. The only thing you can see is his eyebrows.
Defense attorneys are hoping to get a laundry list of evidence thrown out, like the items found in Mangione's backpack, including a 3D printed gun and notebook with his alleged writings, as well as statements police say that he made.
Now, tomorrow in court, we are expecting to hear from more Altoona police officers who helped arrest Luigi Mangione, including one who searched his bag and later said on body camera footage that there was a weapon. That will no doubt be some key testimony in this hearing. Lindsay?
A preview of the trial ahead, Reena. Thank you. Now to the showdown over the boat strikes in the Caribbean. The Trump administration is facing calls to release video of the second attack in September on a suspected drug boat. President Trump has endorsed the move, but the Secretary of Defense says they're reviewing the process. Here's ABC's senior White House correspondent, Selina Wang.
Tonight, growing pressure on the Trump administration to release the full video of that September 2nd attack on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean Sea.
This video was profoundly shaken, and I think it's important for Americans to see it.
After the initial strike, the military fired more missiles, killing 2 survivors. The top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, one of the few lawmakers who has seen the unreleased footage, describing the second strike as an attack on defenseless survivors, an act that, if true, would violate international law.
I think it's really important that people see what it looks like when the full force of the United States military is turned on 2 guys who are clinging to a piece of wood and about to go under.
But the top Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee insisting all 11 people on board were valid targets, echoing Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's argument that the survivors were still in the fight.
It looked at one point like they were trying to flip the boat back over, presumably to rescue its cargo and continue their mission.
Just days ago, President Trump told me he would support releasing the full video.
You released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem.
But now Secretary Hegseth, non-committal.
They're doing this right now, so whatever we were to decide to release, we'd have to be very responsible about. So we're reviewing that right now.
And Lindsay, the concerns go far beyond just this operation. Some question whether or not the entire campaign is even legal. Since September, the U.S. has hit more than 20 suspected drug boats, killing more than 80 people. But the administration has yet to provide any public evidence that those who were killed were actually smuggling drugs. Lindsay?
Meanwhile, Hegseth is vowing more U.S. boat strikes. Selina, thank you. Next tonight, the Department of Justice is facing a setback in its attempt to possibly re-indict former FBI Director James Comey. On Saturday, a judge temporarily blocked federal prosecutors from accessing key evidence in the case. Let's bring in ABC's Olivia Rubin. Olivia, what are you learning tonight?
Lindsay, tonight the Justice Department potentially facing a major setback in its efforts to prosecute the former FBI Director James Comey. A judge temporarily blocking the government from using key evidence in the case, finding it may have been improperly accessed when Comey was indicted earlier this year on charges of lying to Congress, allegations he denies. That critical evidence came from the computer of Comey's longtime friend and was obtained by DOJ years ago. But the judge finding DOJ may have accessed it again without getting a new warrant, a move that could have violated the law. The ruling is just the latest blow to the Comey case after the indictment was dismissed by a judge who found the Trump administration unlawfully appointed the prosecutor who brought it. Now this is just another potential setback as prosecutors weigh whether or not to try to indict Comey once again. The Justice Department ordered to respond in court this week. Lindsay.
Olivia, thank you. We're learning new details tonight about a terrifying mid-air scare in 2023. New audio reveals the chaos in the cockpit after an off-duty Alaska Airlines pilot tried to shut off the engines of a passenger plane. And tonight, new video of his arrest. Here's ABC's Jacqueline Lee.
Tonight, new audio and video revealing the chaos in the cockpit as a former Alaska Airlines pilot tried to shut down the engines of a passenger plane in October 2023.
What's wrong? Hey! What's going on?
Horizon Flight 2059 was heading from Everett, Washington to San Francisco when off-duty pilot Joseph Emerson, riding in the jump seat, tried to pull the fire suppression handles and putting the lives of 83 other people on board in jeopardy.
We need to go direct to Portland now.
The plane making an emergency landing at Portland International Airport. This material, first obtained by NBC's Portland affiliate KGW, also showing Emerson under arrest, admitting he had taken psychedelic mushrooms 2 days earlier and had not slept in 48 hours.
So were you trying to kill yourself? I was trying to wake up. Trying to wake up because I don't feel like this is real.
Emerson pled guilty in federal court to interfering with flight crew members. He was fired by the airline and lost his pilot's license. Emerson telling ABC News in 2024 that he wishes he could take it all back.
I did something unfathomable to me, something I have to take responsibility for, and I regret.
Lindsay, Emerson was sentenced to time served. He and his wife have since started a nonprofit focused on mental health support for pilots. Lindsay.
Jacqueline, thank you. Now to one of the largest settlements for a killing by police in U.S. history. The San Diego City Attorney's Office has agreed to pay $30 million to the family of a 16-year-old who died after being shot by an officer in January. And we want to warn you, some of these images may be disturbing. Here's ABC's Melissa Don.
Tonight, after a 16-year-old was killed by police while running from gunfire, the city of San Diego agreeing to pay out a $30 million settlement to the family of the victim. 16-year-old Kanoa Wilson killed in late January after officers shot him while he was fleeing another person.
This was a 16-year-old boy who was just days away from turning 17 who was double-tapped, shot in the back.
Kanoa's parents suing the city and the officer who shot him. In graphic surveillance video released by authorities, Kanoa seen running away after police say another person fired towards him. Kanoa then running past police officer Daniel Gold. Gold firing 2 shots. Kanoa then heard screaming and collapses. San Diego police officers then seen attending to Kanoa.
As of right now, this is our only suspect, the one that we're doing medical work on right now.
Police say officers performed CPR and while doing so found a handgun. The teen was taken to the hospital where he later died. The settlement, one of the largest for a police killing, exceeding the city of Minneapolis's George Floyd settlement.
Lindsay, the San Diego Police Department says Officer Gold is now working in an administrative capacity. The San Diego City Council will likely approve the settlement on Tuesday. Lindsay?
Melissa, thank you. Overseas now to Russia, unleashing hundreds of drone strikes against Ukraine. Ukrainian officials say the strikes targeted the infrastructure, which keeps everyday life going. This is talks to end the war wrapped up today in Miami. ABC's Britt Clennett reports tonight from Ukraine.
Tonight, the massive attacks Russia unleashed on Ukraine over the weekend, killing 2 people. Russia ramping up its attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure across the country, trying to cripple its energy supply. More than 1,600 drones and 1,400 missiles fired at Ukraine this week. This railway hub in central Ukraine targeted, causing water and power outages just 24 hours after this train depot was struck just outside of Kyiv.
You can see where the station has been hollowed out by the impact. Firefighters clearing through the bits of twisted rubble, working through the building, which is still smouldering.
The strikes coinciding with peace talks between the US and Ukraine in Miami that wrapped up this weekend. Zelensky on Saturday describing a phone call with US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner as substantive and constructive. That's after peace talks in Moscow earlier this week failed to yield a breakthrough.
Lindsay, next President Zelensky will travel to London for talks with European leaders on Monday. French President Emmanuel Macron saying we must continue to exert pressure on Russia to compel it to choose peace. Lindsay.
Britt Clennett reporting from Ukraine. Thank you. Back here in the U.S., some good news about the National Guard member who survived a deadly attack in the nation's capital. The mother of 24-year-old Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf says he's surpassing expectations. She also says doctors are scaling back on his pain medication. Wolf and 20-year-old Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom were shot in an ambush-style attack the day before Thanksgiving. Beckstrom did not survive. Now to a big day in college football. The 12-team playoff bracket is now set. Undefeated Indiana is the #1 seed after its historic Big Ten championship win. Let's bring in ABC's Perry Russum. Perry, some big surprises and disappointments.
Yeah, Lindsay, the bracket is all set, as you mentioned. Indiana leading the way as the #1 seed after winning the Big Ten championship last night, staying undefeated. The team they beat, Ohio State, is in as the #2 seed. Both teams joining Georgia and Texas Tech in getting first-round byes. Tulane and James Madison are also in the playoffs after winning their conference championships. And this is where it gets very interesting. Miami and Alabama are in, meaning Notre Dame is out. The Irish were the first team out and just said they will not play in a bowl game this year. They withdrew their name from consideration. No reason was given. Back to the playoffs. First round games will be played on the campus of the higher seed. It all starts Friday, December 19th on ABC, Lindsay.
Really fascinating move there by Notre Dame. Perry, thank you. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Sunday, including what happened when a car tried to cross the tracks with a train bearing down, and the spectacular scene from Hawaii as Kilauea erupts again. Next tonight, frightening images of a collision at a railroad crossing. You can see a car crossing the tracks in Wilton, Iowa, with a train bearing down. The car was pushed quite a distance, but remarkably, the driver did not suffer any major injuries. There are no gates at that crossing. Police say drivers still need to pay attention to warning devices. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano is erupting again in spectacular fashion. Fountains of lava were seen shooting up to 100 feet into the air over the Big Island on Saturday. No communities were at risk. The eruption was captured live on a web camera that was a bit too close to all the action. That camera captured its own demise as it was engulfed in lava. When we come back, the news just coming in about a recall of mixed nuts linked to a possible salmonella contamination. To the Index now, we're just getting word of a recall of mixed nuts sold by the Wegman supermarket chain. It involves varieties of Wegman's deluxe mixed nuts in 34-ounce tubs and 11.5-ounce plastic bags. Wegman says that those products could be contaminated by salmonella. They were sold in at least 10 states in the East. The race for top driver in Formula One racing went all the way to the checkered flag. Britain's Lando Norris finished third today in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but that was good enough to give him his first world championship. He edged out Max Verstappen, who'd won the last 4 titles. Soccer superstar Lionel Messi is no stranger to championships, and he's added another one to his trophy case by leading Inter Miami to a 3-1 victory over the Vancouver Whitecaps in the MLS Championship. Messi's one of just a handful of players who've won both the World Cup and the MLS Cup. When we come back, America Strong, a cherished holiday tradition, lives on in the face of utter devastation. Finally tonight, a welcome sign of the season in the Holy Land. A giant Christmas tree was lit in Manger Square in Bethlehem, the traditional birthplace of Jesus. Celebrations had been canceled the past 2 years because of the war in Gaza. And here at home, a special celebration 11 months after everything changed.
While the tradition dates back more than 100 years, last night's Christmas Tree Lane Lighting Festival in Altadena, California was especially meaningful.
3, 2, 1.
The trees that once stood as silent witnesses to nature's fury after the devastating fires here are once again bathed in light. Marking the first time since that dark chapter of loss in January when the Eaton fire raced through, killing 19 people and destroying thousands of homes.
Even though they lost their houses, they are in good spirits and they are very strong.
The streets of Altadena, once cloaked in the shadow of tragedy, once again shimmer with a quiet promise. The glow of more than 20,000 twinkling lights on 153 deodars, a type of cedar tree that stretch along Christmas Tree Lane. Amazingly, none of the 153 deodars along this iconic street were lost in the fire, some as high as 130 feet tall.
I think there was a fear that we were going to put things aside because the rebuild effort is continuing.
More than 200 volunteers worked on weekends for 10 weeks to bring this year's tree lighting to life.
This year was a little challenging with the hurdles we had to go through to see even if our power lines were great, if we could even get the lights into the trees to see if our trees were healthy enough.
An estimated 20,000 people showed up to marvel at this moment, to witness these trees no longer standing as reminders of destruction, but as symbols of hope, shining brightly into the night here in Altadena, where light has returned.
Heartwarming to see that. Thanks so much for watching. David Muir right back here tomorrow night. I'm Lindsay Davis in New York. Have a great evening. Good night.
David Muir, the most watched newscast in America. And now, ABC's World News Tonight has won the Emmy for Best Live News Program for the third year in a row.